Should be there now. Okay, I think we're good now, Amy. Oh, hold on one sec.
Okay.
Jason says we're not there yet. Page. Did you? Well, maybe not yet.
Can you guys even tell how many people are on once you switch back?
No, because I'm on Facebook, it's just on our homepage. I don't have anything that shows me viewers.
Okay.
That looks like that's me with my.
I know, how come yours is, how come yours isn't?
Yeah, we're live. Jason says we're not, but we are, so.
All right, so are we good?
Yes.
It's still not.
All right, so looking at our agenda, we would need a motion to be made on employee in 2020.
So if it's okay, Chairman Landers, I just say we'd ask the board to approve a motion to continue the suspension for employee N 2020 from now until the time that the board has the opportunity to have a hearing regarding his employment.
Okay, so we would need a motion.
I so move.
Okay. Been moved by Mr. Dance,
I would second the motion.
seconded by Mr. Jenkins. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Mary, what are you trying to say?
Could you please repeat the motion?
It's what Scott said about extending the suspension until the board has a hearing.
Okay. Who moved? Chad did, right? Chad.
Yep, and then yeah, and then Paul.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we all said aye, so the motion carries. And then Scott, if you just wanted to go over the fiscal year 2021 master agreement, and then we'll make a motion on that as well.
Thank you. So I just want to report to the board that we had a really productive negotiation session with our teachers. Because of the school closures, we were able to meet them for almost all the day last Thursday, and then a good portion of the day on Tuesday of this week. Yeah, it wasn't Memorial Day, so it was on Tuesday. Just really appreciate the collaborative and proactive approach of our teachers. They certainly recognize the impending financial crisis that not only our district, but other districts in the state are facing. Recognize the need that we had to be very, very conservative with our budget this year. I really appreciate Guy. Again, Guy is just a remarkable finance and business manager. He's got a very good grasp of the things that are causing the decline in our fund balance currently and the trend that we're on with that. And we'll have some good discussions with the board about that going forward. But there are some key factors with our budget that really did impact our ability to offer any type of pay increases to our teachers this coming year. Of course, we had the 5% holdback from the state that includes a freeze of teachers moving on the career ladder. We're also looking at the likelihood that our enrollment will not continue to grow at the same rate that it has in the past. That will have an impact on our emergency levy as well. So just been very mindful of those things. Heath has done a remarkable job on working with principals to get our teaching staff down to the 95% that where the state will still fund us 100%. That's really the magic number, but we're also not overstaffing above that. So trying to create as much of a margin with that 5% range that we have, so we can try to keep teachers' salaries whole, because for our veteran teachers, state funding for them right now stops at $50,000, which is not a lot of money for a teacher who's been teaching 25 to 30 years. As we've tried to recruit teachers from out of state, we know that we have to pay veteran teachers, up somewhere in the $60,000 range to be able to recruit and retain our veteran teachers. So just trying to be mindful of all those things that are playing into the budget. And again, our representatives from the Teachers Association were very collaborative and very professional in addressing those needs. So just the key things that we talked about in the language of the master agreement, most of the items we discussed when it came to the language of the master agreement focused on a new state law, House Bill 523, that will create another tier to the career ladder and funding from the state. But that also includes a lot of stipulations and requirements that teachers will have to meet for districts to receive that funding. There's a very heavy focus on their evaluations and on the fact that teachers will need to be highly effective in at least one domain on the Danielson framework. 75% of their students will have to be meeting their student achievement targets. So there's some pretty heavy expectations for teachers to meet before the state will provide that funding to districts. And so in the interest of working together to make sure teachers have the opportunity to meet those requirements, the association proposed some language regarding evaluations, wanting to ensure that evaluations are done according to state law and Idaho code, which of course by state law and Idaho code they have to, but I do think it's reassuring that teachers understand that that's an expectation and a contractual responsibility that we have with them to provide evaluations that align to those, to both our board policy as well as to the state rules. Also making sure that teachers are receiving feedback, and that's one of the great things about the evaluation system we use. Again, we did not and have never adopted the Danielson framework wholesale like most of the state has. We've continued to work with what we feel is a much more effective and informative evaluation system, the Jordan Performance Appraisal System out of Utah, that provides teachers with very detailed feedback based on the principal's observations on exactly what their strengths are and exactly the areas that they can focus on to try to improve their performance. And so I feel very comfortable with this expectation that's now in the master agreement because every year when a teacher is evaluated, they receive a detailed report back that gives them the specific things to where they should focus their professional development. And that's been very helpful for teachers as they develop their individual professional learning plans, which are again a part of this requirement for them to advance into the advanced professional rungs. So all that I think is actually very helpful language that was proposed by the association and will really help us to be able to receive more funding from the state when it comes to funding our teachers that are, again, veteran teachers that have been teaching for a long time and certainly I think need the additional pay from the state. One other key element of those advanced professional rungs is a requirement for teachers to participate with leadership responsibility. And again, many of our teachers do this already. One of the fortunate funding aspects we've had from the state for the last few years has been leadership premiums. And we have a large number of our teachers who receive those premiums. The state also structured the funding and the language for those premiums so that not every teacher could receive a premium. In fact, they put in specific language that would make it impossible for every teacher to receive a leadership premium. And so in some people's minds, those two ideals work against each other. Teachers have to have a leadership responsibility to qualify for the advanced professional rung, but not every teacher is eligible to hold a leadership premium. So the idea with this language is that simply we create a committee to identify what those leadership responsibilities are that could qualify a teacher to, again, receive the advanced professional endorsement on their certificate. Any questions from the board on any of that language? So, not hearing any. The other couple of other big changes for us this year, we received so when it comes to our insurance, the school district is part of what's known as a statewide school pool, which essentially means we're part of a pool just with other school districts in the state. So we're not our own entity when it comes to our insurance rating, but across the state, we're part of a consortium of other districts that are essentially a self-funded entity for our insurance. And then Blue Cross is the plan administrator for that insurance benefit plan. And so with that, we received a fairly significant increase to our insurance premiums this coming year. 8% insurance hike, which is equivalent to about $800,000 for our district. which in a year when we have to cut 5% out of our budget is a really troubling number, a really troubling number. Because now we have to not only cut by 5%, we also have to find funding to offset this cost that's almost 800,000 is about, got to do the math in my head, 800,000 divided by 70 million. So it's going to be right around, Guy, what percent of our budget is that? Should try to do math on air in live without having numbers in front of me in my head.
Sorry, I'm having some.
800,000 divided by our $70 billion state budgets, what percentage?
Sorry, my sound was going off. I'm catching up to you now. It's close to 1%.
Yeah, that's what I was coming up with in my head, is right around 1%. So get a 5% holdback from the state, and at the same time, we have to find a way to pay this additional 1% of cost. So our teachers were, again, remarkable in their proactive approach to addressing this, as well as our insurance committee that met together to consider different alternatives. So as a result of that, our insurance committee recommended the option to continue with our current plan, which again would result in that increase of a monthly premium from $764 a month to $831 a month approximately, which is fairly significant, and about, well, it's a $66 per month increase times 12 months is, about $750 per employee. And again, we have just over 1,000 benefit employees, so that's about $800,000 that it would cost the district. So recognizing that, the insurance committee also recommended a different plan, which is a health savings plan. Has a different structure to it, a lot of details to that we'll need to review with our employees. Comes with a higher deductible, but the max out of pocket per employee is very close to the same, and just some other changes in the benefit plans there. So we'll need to do a lot of education, but by offering this plan, if our employees choose to switch to this plan, then there's actually a savings to the district of just under $150, $146.50. So we're really excited that we have both plans we can offer to our employees. And then through negotiations with the Teachers Association, the recommendation is that employees would be expected to contribute $66.75, which is basically the net increase from what the district's currently paying this year to what we will have to pay next year. And the employees would pay that portion. Or if they switch to the less expensive option, then they would not be expected to contribute anything towards the health savings account premium. And the district would actually also contribute $146.50 into their health savings account, which basically keeps the district's contribution flat next year for our employees, regardless of whichever plan that they're on. So just really excited about that option for our teachers, and also an opportunity for the district to not have to face that 1% increase to our budget that we were facing. And so with that, then as we contemplated insurance, we had a lot of discussion about how the insurance impacts teachers' pay next year. And again, knowing that the state was holding the teacher salaries flat, our recommendation that we came to with the BEA was that the state law requires us to raise the minimum salary to $40,000. So for our employees that are in the residential rungs, R1, R2, and R3, their pay will go from $38,500 to $40,000, which is the statutory minimum. But all the rest of our employees, their pay would, on our salary schedule, would stay the same. However, we did offer to pay a one-time payment to our teachers of $500 for anybody in these professional rungs. We get a one-time payment of $500. And then we did have a group of employees last year that we also did a one-time payment of $1,000, and we would continue that payment as well this year, recognizing that if we did do that, then that would actually result in a net decrease to their pay this year. So again, it was not an easy collaboration or negotiation session. Lots of just challenging things and issues we had to work through. feels like I see that every year, but every year we just get dealt a really interesting set of cards to play. And this year was absolutely no different. And I keep hoping optimistically that one of these years it's just going to be a normal negotiation session, but it honestly hasn't been like that since the advent of the career ladder. So, but again, just really appreciative of our teachers and feel very good about the us working together to find a proposal that would, again, do our very best to provide some level of at least keeping teachers' pay harmless, if not actually giving them the opportunity to get an increase if they do opt for a different health insurance plan that we've had. But otherwise, just doing our very best to try to hold their pay flat this coming year and trying to protect all the jobs that we can protect for both our classified and certified staff. So with that, unless there's questions from the board, our recommendation would be that the board would approve these changes to the master agreement for the current year. Just for your information, the BEA has not ratified this yet. And I'm not sure, it's a little bit of a challenging year for them where they don't have the opportunity to bring everybody together into a big meeting and present this and have it ratified. So they'll need to go through some processes to get it ratified by the association. But this would probably be the first time, if the board chooses to ratify this tonight, that we would ratify before the association, or the board could wait until their regular meeting. I think our recommendation would be to go ahead and ratify if the board's comfortable with that. And that would allow us to begin a process of developing teacher contracts, because we are on a bit of a tight timeline to get teachers' contracts developed and sent to teachers before July 1st.
So unless the board has concerns about ratifying tonight, I guess go ahead and speak up, I guess right now, if there's concerns with that. Otherwise, we would need a motion.
I would make a motion that we ratify the teacher contract as presented.
Okay, it's been moved by Mr. Jenkins,
I second.
seconded by Mr. Lynch. Is there any discussion on that from the board?
Madam Chair, just one question back on those leadership. I should have asked it before, but on those leadership stipends, people that get those, they have extra responsibilities associated with those. Does anyone follow up on their performance?
Yeah, we do. Yeah, so I appreciate that question, Chad. So one key change that we made, I think it was last year, I kind of lose track, is we did start paying all the leadership premiums in June, because we did have some situations where there was a concern about a teacher performing those responsibilities. We had other situations where a teacher may have asked to be released from their contract in January, and by statute, we were still required to pay them the minimum $900, even though they'd only fulfilled half of that responsibility. And so we've made that move to June, and principals are responsible to let us know if there's concerns with any teacher who's not fulfilled those responsibilities. The other thing, it's not part of negotiations, but just as a follow-up to that question, that one of the items that the state will cut, according to Governor Little's memo, is leadership premiums for next year. And that's a pretty significant concern to us because that's been pretty crucial to our success as a professional learning community, where we have teachers that are assuming leadership positions as part of their school leadership teams, or on our teams that are responsible for planning interventions and supports for students. Those were once upon a time part of the master agreement and part of the stipend schedule, but we moved those to leadership premiums. So one of the things we will have to do this summer is meet together with our leadership committee, our leadership premium committee, and determine which of those we can continue, knowing that there's not funding for those, at least not specific leadership premium funding for those. And also what amounts we'll pay, because the state's not funding those, we'll be able to adjust the pay to those with more flexibility than we've had in the past.
Scott, are they planning on making that up to us somewhere different next year, or just taken
No.
away?
No, it's taken away, but what they have done is they didn't completely eliminate the professional development budget. And because much of those responsibilities centers on providing professional developments and support to other teachers in the buildings, our intent is to use a large percentage of our professional development budget to try to continue those as much as we possibly can. We can't do everything we've done before, and we can't do it at the amount we've done before, but we'll be able to make up at least some of the difference.
All right.
Thank
Is
you.
there, go ahead, Chad, did you have something else?
No, I just thank Scott for that explanation.
Is there any other questions, comments, or discussion about the master agreement?
I have none.
I have none.
I have none either.
All right, so hearing none, we have had a motion on the table, so all in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion carries. Scott, if you could let those teachers know that we appreciate the time that they've put in this, as well as your team, which I know most of you guys are on right now, but thank you for the work that you guys have put into this. And if you could just tell the teachers thank you as well.
You bet. I'll tell you, there are certainly times I miss Margene, but I don't think any more than during negotiations. That's just where I've got really good, smart people on the team with me, but there's something to be said for years and years of experience. I'm just grateful at least I got a few years under my belt before stepping into this, but she was missed this year.
Yeah. Well, tell them that we appreciate them. So
Yeah.
thank you for all of that work. All right. If there's nothing else, we would need a motion to adjourn, and our next meeting is our regular meeting in June.
I move that we adjourn.
I
Okay,
second.
Moved by Mr. Dance, seconded by Mr. Lynch. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'm assuming there was an aye from Chad. So there's 3 that I heard. So motion carries. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
And our
Thank
next
you.
meeting, Scott, is going to be at Thunder Ridge. Is that correct?
It is. So I guess my question is anybody still wanting to participate via Zoom? Or is everybody planning to be there in person?
I'll be there.
I'll be there.
I'll be there.
Paul, you're going to be there? You don't want to do Zoom?
Well, if we can stay social distance, if you don't mind if I wear a mask, I have no problem being there.
Okay. If you're sure, because you can call in too if you don't feel like you can be there.
Okay.
And I think-
If things change, but as of right now, I'll
Okay.
plan on being there.
So we will, I think, because we have to limit attendance in that room, I think we still will use this Zoom link. And so if you choose to stay home, and then you can still use the Zoom link to join.
Okay.
But we'll still use this as our broadcast mechanism out to the public.
It's been really wonderful to be able to do it like this. Thank you for accommodation.
Yeah.
We also have an executive